It feels good to be back on air. Live Outer Rim transmission is back for episode 163. It's I, Chris, aka Star Raptor, joined by Ben this week. We've had a good 3-week hiatus. I was out gallivanting across SoCal, as they say, San Diego Comic-Con, Santa Monica. And yeah, it was a nice little break. I feel refreshed. I don't know about you, Ben.
Oh yeah, it was a good little break. I mean, we've been grinding away at podcasting and just real life stuff, and then not a lot going on between our last podcast and then until this weekend really for D23, which was perfect timing actually. So it was a nice little break, nice little summer break, and yeah, just having a good time this summer.
Yeah, I planned it purposely. I had a feeling that we would get a bunch of news for D23, and it did not disappoint. I would say I think I could safely say this is the most present Star Wars was at D23 in a long time, and it's because Celebration wasn't this year, so Disney was holding back, Lucasfilm was holding back, I feel like, on a lot of news, and here we are, we get to discuss all the news. So we have trailers to talk about, we have updates on certain things, and a whole lot more. So yes, this is not going to be the usual trailer breakdown, because this is kind of like a pseudo Celebration show, if you will. We're going to be recapping, diving in a little deep into some of these stories, but I'm sure we're going to get into them a little bit deeper on subsequent episodes because, well, we don't have any more shows to talk about, guys. So it's going to be that usual Outer Rims transmission open discussion from here until September when we get the Lego special coming out. And then from there on out, then we get Skeleton Crew in December. But we'll talk all about that more succinctly in a few minutes. But since it has been 3 weeks, give us an update, Ben. What Star Wars adventures or books or audio books or whatever it is that you've been experiencing, man?
Yeah, I mean, for me over the last few weeks, I haven't had a crazy big Star Wars weekend Star Wars thing. Other than really, I mean, I probably had one of the best highlights of the past few weeks actually was today, of all things today. Talk about doing your homework late, but was today I was talking with our cousins. We have relatives here from out of town, actually from out of country, from Germany. And, I've actually referenced these relatives before because, like, my cousin that I was talking to, he listens to the podcast, and me and him were talking about, of course, all things Star Wars, catching up on The Acolyte, catching up on, for that show, for what it's worth. He, this is coming from, like, a 17-year-old's perspective. He liked the action. He thought, some of the stuff that we critiqued in the show was a little odd, like some of the flashback stuff and, like, some of the basic things that, like, we've all talked about on this podcast, like, pretty much similar with him, where he thought, yeah, it's a fine show. I would like to see where they would go with a Darth Plagueis is what he came out with it. But, yeah, I talked with him about all of this Star Wars stuff, catching up on all of this. And, it was great talking with him because he actually... So, he still has old lightsabers and figures and Legos I gave him clear back when he was like 7 years old when he was over here, mind so 10 years ago. And like he still has I gave him like an Anakin Revenge of the Sith saber from that time, and it was like a creative saber thing that was out at that time, so you could take the hilt all apart and make it however you want to look, like Obi-Wan's or Anakin's or a mix. And like he has a bunch of the figures still, he still collects all the Star Wars Legos. And just all of that stuff. And he was like, yeah, like all your stuff you gave me is like some of the big parts of his collection. Like he has a lot of like the vintage, like the Jango Fett's from back in the day that you could take the armor off, or General Grievous or Vader or whatever. Like, so yeah, so we were like catching up on all of that Star Wars stuff, and all my Star Wars stuff from the early 2000s is still standing strong over there in Germany right now.
That is pretty awesome to think about the next generation, right? The thing about introducing the next generation of Star Wars, do they stick with it? Was it just a fad, or in your case of your relative there, still going strong? That's awesome.
Oh yeah, he loves, like, he's into Star Wars like as much as we are. Like he's into all the like the detailed. He's definitely in the weeds type of Star Wars. How we are all here on this podcast. So like he's really into all of it. And he was just like, really telling me, all these different things. Like all these different ideas and theories for Ahsoka and Acolyte and all these things. So like it was great. Just having a really good in-depth Star Wars discussion with someone I normally don't talk to, all the time. So yeah, that was definitely a lot of fun talking with him today about everything, and just really having a good time catching up about that. And that was like my main highlight over the last few weeks, because of course I've had like the basic Star Wars things, like you're like seeing cool stuff created on YouTube by creators, or looking at different products or things like that. I did actually have one little tiny one before I let you get to your week in Star Wars, Chris. So other than me having this like awesome conversation with my cousin, I had a really basic one. So my dad actually found, I've already eaten them since, because this was like a week and a half ago, but he found I'm sure it's obviously not Mandalorian and Grogu marketing yet for that movie, but it's just like general Mandalorian stuff. And it was from Hostess. I think it was from Hostess, but it was Hostess like Mandalorian and Grogu cakes, and it was like Mando's helmet and like the Grogu head for like the cakes in the box and stuff. So I was snacking on those like a week and a half ago.
Oh yeah. I've had something called there were something cakes as well, but they weren't as defined as yours. They were just like colors representing each character. They're just little square cube type cake things, but. Yeah, I mean, hey, we talked about a couple months ago, those Oreos, man. I still find myself, like, every once in a while, I see the Oreos in the fridge that I still have from all that time ago. And I'm like, all right, I'll have another one. I'm really rationing those things off, because it's just, I try to watch the sugar intake. So, hey, one every once in a while, not too bad there. But as far as me, and this is kind of a heads up to anybody that follows me on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it these days. I guess it is X. There is no twitter.com anymore. So on X, I posted today the very first chronological Star Wars novel that I started reading, and that is Dawn of the Jedi. I finally, it took me a freaking plane ride across the United States of America to finally feel motivated enough to finish Epic Collection Tales of the Jedi #1, which is not Tales of the Jedi as you would expect, but it is, in fact, the entire run of the Dawn of the Jedi Dark Horse comic books that just stopped right before the buyout for Lucasfilm from Disney. So, yeah, I read that on the plane, and now I'm finally ready to read the book that is taking place. I feel like I've read one of the characters' names of a character that appears in the comics, so I know it's firmly planted in that era. So far, I'm really enjoying the book. I mean, what's there to say about a book that you've only read about 12 pages of? But from what I've read, I like the writing style. I like where it's going. It's just a Jedi Ranger, as they call it, Jedi, with an A-I-I, is the main character, it seems like, so far. And it's like, oh, there's something happening. She gets called to this post that she needs to talk to the Jedi Masters that have, something big has happened. And that's where I left off. But from where it started, I'm already more engaged than I was with the comic books, for what that's worth. But, yeah, hopefully it doesn't take me another 3 or 4 months to finish the book. But when you have all the High Republic stuff about to come out once again in August and September, and the Mace Windu book in October, there's a lot on the horizon. So, yeah, my week in Star Wars says, hey, I started a new Legends book.
Hey, that's good. I mean, it's always good to get checking out some Legends books. I definitely can't say I don't remember much about that book, honestly, because my Legends expertise is definitely like more right before the prequels, up and past the OT. Yeah, I don't really remember that book, but it's cool that you're like starting it and like just getting into it, so that'll be a good time.
Oh yeah. So I think it is about time to get into the plug. So if you are listening to this, you can also watch it live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, me, Ben, and Milton, and sometimes we even have a guest on here break down the latest in Star Wars. So if you would like to watch and see some cool slides and images like we're going to go through tonight, then it might be worth your while to tune in every once in a while on youtube.com/StarRaptor. And the same could be said for those watching that have to run out the door or whatever you got to do. You can always listen to us on the go. Just search Outer Rim Transmission on any podcast streaming choice app of your choice, whether it be Apple, whether it be Amazon, whether it be Spotify. And please, on all those platforms, wherever you can do it, give us a review to help spread the Star Wars positivity all over the fandom with Outer Rim Transmission. We do appreciate it, and you can still buy Outer Rim Transmission t-shirts over on teespring.com. Just search Outer Rim Transmissions on there. Now, getting into some more things I've been up to. So, came back with podcasting after 3 weeks, and this is my third podcast of the week. I've been busy. It's like, why, 3 weeks I can go into a whole slew of podcasts in the week I return. I'm well rested, and I do in fact feel well rested. But yes, me and Matthew Neugebauer, our usual show, we are back on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. over on the Star Wars Underworld network on YouTube. We do the Tractor Beam show, breaking down the latest in the comics every single week. I know, Ben, that you check that show out every once in a while. Me and Ben try to be as thorough as we can, but have a kind of good back and forth discussion about our thoughts on the comics and everything in that realm of Star Wars. I was also invited on the Star Wars Underworld flagship, as we call it, the main show, on Thursday at 9 p.m., where we broke down our thoughts, speculated on what was going to be happening at D23. So if you want to have a fun time of listening to my crazy speculation of everything I said, which probably didn't happen, then you can go back in hindsight and listen to and watch that episode. But the reason why I implore everybody listening to go to that episode of Star Wars Underworld on Thursday that we recorded is because we had some special guests from Disneyland making an appearance. I don't know if you can consider myself like canonical in Star Wars or the podcast of Star Wars Underworld canonical now, because we were having one of our hosts, Dominic, was in Disneyland filming on the podcast directly from Batuu. And we were beset upon by 2 First Order stormtroopers live on camera that were berating Dominic, that were basically giving him flack for having a data pad with people on it, and they were hamming it up at the camera. They're pointing at us on the screen. So we literally had stormtroopers basically rating our live stream. So if you want to see our crazy reactions to that, then I highly recommend you do that. It's within like the first 30 minutes of the episode, so it was pretty fun stuff there. But yeah, I feel like half the time I'm on that podcast, something's crazy is happening. At one point, I was on the podcast a couple months ago, and the official Wikipedia account showed up in the chat and was just having a good time. So yeah, there you go. I don't know if I bring some kind of special luck to that show sometimes, but it is what it is. So there you go. You can find that on the Star Wars Underworld channel. And last but not least, if you're on the Star Raptor channel, you're already there right now as you're watching this, or after the fact. I put up a bunch of videos pertaining to my trip to San Diego. So everything from all the Star Wars content, I put up a Star Wars video for San Diego Comic-Con. I put up a general Comic-Con video. I even put up a vlog of the entire trip I went on. I went on a trip that went from, Santa Monica, LA area with Universal. You can see footage from me at the theme park, Hollywood Boulevard, all those kind of places, down to San Diego. So there's a lot of content there. And finally, because I was a busy guy, I put up a review for the Bounty Hunter Remaster. So you could see me maybe rant a little bit on the video according to comments, but I've even admitted myself in the video that I was going on a little bit of a tangent. But you'll just have to watch that to find out what I'm talking about. There you go. There's my little teaser for you. So there you go, Ben. I think I covered it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, and there's plenty to talk about now tonight. Like, I mean, gosh, D23,
yep.
It was quite the event, really.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so much to talk about. Like you even messaged in our chat, this is going to be probably a longer show, folks. So buckle up.
Yeah. So first and foremost, so the D23 is a biannual, I think it's every 2 years for the most part, event that is held in Anaheim Convention Center, the same place that a lot of the Star Wars celebrations actually are held in. So I've been in that place before. I've been there. And it was 3 days, but basically it's everything that Disney owns. From what I hear, it's more of a corporate kind of thing than a Comic-Con. Like when you go to the expo hall, it's not as many like vendors, and it's not as many things like that. It's more just like Disney sanctioned props and cool little displays. And you'll see it if you search Twitter and just search trending D23, you'll see like a bunch of what it looks like. So it's pretty cool. It's not what I would ever go to. I would never go there. Unless I got a ticket to go to like the special presentation for Star Wars, because spoiler alert, there was nothing else really revealed big time with Star Wars unless you're at that special event presentation. There weren't even really many panels for Star Wars to begin with. But anyway, as I said off the top, I think this was pretty good for Star Wars. It was nice seeing this because in years prior, we would be waiting on bated breath, right? We would be like, oh my gosh, what's Star Wars going to bring to D23? And Marvel would outshine Star Wars every freaking time. Marvel would get all this great coverage, and then they might say like, oh, here's like a little behind the scenes thing for something that's coming out next month. They wouldn't really go crazy. However, this year, while there weren't any like super big surprises, I think they did what they needed to do. So what I want to do is kind of go through chronologically, which is from Friday they revealed a new trailer for this new Lego Star Wars series, Ben. So give us your thoughts on that. Like I said, we're not going to be doing trailer breakdowns in the show because there's just too many trailers and things to talk about, but we're going to just, give a little bit of a review on some of these trailers, talk about the things we liked, maybe things that we didn't like or whatever. So what'd you think about this trailer, man?
I thought it was...
Rebuild the Galaxy. Sorry, I meant to say Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. There you go.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. Like everyone knows if they've been listening to the podcast for a while, like you and me especially, we've really enjoyed the Lego specials for the most part they've put out under Disney. Like we've had good ones. The holiday specials were good. Halloween was pretty good. And we have this one, and I'm sure this one will be a fun one just based on the trailer alone. I really like it just because it's kind of our pseudo what if you will, like if you would take it in Marvel terms, it's kind of like a what if situation. Like you have Darth Jar Jar, it's like changing around a lot of your situations. Like you have a Dark Ray, even you have some of the other things like I messaged in our chat about, and I even posted on Twitter. I really do I really do, and I posted on Twitter, like I really respect the folks that work for the Star Wars Lego show side of things a lot, because they can poke fun at a lot of the things, they can actually have like a lot of self-humor with Star Wars, which is nice because a lot of Star Wars over the past few years, they're always so buttoned up, so uptight, they can't take a joke on anything. And in the Lego holiday special, we had the Emperor talking about Starkiller Base being the most ridiculous sounding name he's ever heard of, and then even in this you have the whole little monologue with Luke, basically finding out what happens to him in the sequel trilogy, and it's kind of almost in a mocking, funny way. so they're. These Lego specials, honestly, the way they've done things, they've added a nice layer of humor to Star Wars where, they're kind of addressing in a funny Lego-esque way, addressing kind of pain points for fans to laugh it off and laugh about people, people were upset about the Luke stuff. And it's nice, this Lego special can kind of poke fun at that. And then you even have, some of the other characters you see in the trailer. I think I saw a shot of Kit Fisto, I believe, was in there. You have plenty of other characters that are making an appearance in this, and yeah, I just really enjoy. I think that's the best part of these Lego specials is they can actually have a bit of humor versus being so buttoned up about everything. I really like that.
Oh yeah, I almost couldn't believe it when I watched it. What Mark Hamill was saying. First of all,
Yeah.
it's great to hear Mark Hamill. I'm going to go over the cast in a little bit and tell you exactly who's on it because I was very impressed by that. But the fact that it's like so fourth wall breaking in a way. I mean, after just watching Deadpool recently, I'm like all about the fourth wall stuff, and it really so much feels like that for sure. It's like, wait, this seems like something from Robot Chicken. Lucasfilm is actually letting them get away with saying that. Like they're basically like dumping on the storyline of the sequel trilogy in their own sanctioned show. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, like I said, I really respect the people for the Lego show being able to do something like that just because, people, I mean, I said it before, even back in the whole, we had the whole issue, like the head issue with the Inquisitor in Kenobi. If they would have just addressed it by using comedy, like have the guy that played him come out and say, okay guys, yeah, like I have a big head, blah blah blah, laugh it off, I think fans would have received it better because like self-deprecating humor can really make people put like their pitchforks down for a little bit, and like that's what this special does. Like you said, I honestly was surprised they were even allowed to like let Luke do that dialogue. Like I really was.
Oh yeah, I mean, you go back to San Diego Comic-Con and they had the Lego sets there, and it was really cool looking at them up close. I mean, seeing a TIE fighter with the X-foils and seeing an X-wing with like the TIE fighter cockpit, like it's just, and then seeing, this was amazing, seeing the dark Millennium Falcon, Millennium Falcon
really
just
cool.
Black, like. This looks like that seems like it's a fever dream from a Legends book. Like something that would happen in Legends. Like you have like this dark Millennium Falcon. It seems like something straight out of like the early 2000s or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I mean that Lego set is really cool. Just because it's a cool concept, and this is like another series. I really hope they continue to like even lean more into this like what if-esque behavior that this Lego show can get away with, because it's fun. Like you can do so many different ideas with it. I mean, just imagine, Chris, even to one of your favorite shows, what if they put like a funny spin on Andor at some point or something, or Acolyte even, like they could do so many creative things with this Lego property.
Oh yeah, I want to take a look at these images. We have posters here that they released officially. These are great. These are freaking great. There's a Jar Jar Binks in one of the most famous Star Wars posters, the Phantom Menace with Anakin, except instead of Anakin in front of the Tatooine homestead with the Vader shadow, it's Jar Jar Binks in front of it. Oh. It's just like, and that's not all, because then we have other things such as this Padme with Greedo. Like, what the heck is that about? It's like Greedo with oh wait. Yeah, it's Greedo with. You hear me? Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I think I went dead for a second. It's Greedo with a red lightsaber and Padme like standing back to back as if it's Anakin and Padme.
Well, see, the thing is with these Lego things, it just makes you wonder, because like, for the most part, like other than like the ridiculous things like the Emperor going on vacation or whatever, like it makes you wonder where they got these ideas from. Like, were they potential concepts years ago? Or, you know what I mean? Like were they just random ideas thrown out for other little shows that Star Wars has done over the years? Like, that's where I wonder, because look, we've seen so many things, like they're leaning into the whole Darth Jar Jar thing. They're leaning into all this stuff. So it's like, where are they getting all these ideas from?
Yeah, because you go back to the holiday special one, and they have like a really compelling storyline of, Finn being a Jedi and learning from Rey, one of her first students. So you kind of do wonder, like a lot of my friends and people I know consider that headcanon. Because like, hey, nothing else is contradicting that right now. It's like, yeah, the Lego is somehow paving the way for Star Wars storytelling. It's crazy to think about, but it really seems that way.
Oh yeah, I'm really liking the direction. Like when I saw they were doing this, when I saw like the contents of what they're going to be doing for this Lego special, I got really excited because I really do enjoy these a lot. And like even my you know, I have a 3-year-old niece, and she likes some of this Star Wars stuff, and like I let her watch the Lego Holiday Special, and she liked it. She had a good, she was laughing about it. She didn't really, obviously, you're not following like the dialogue a ton as a kid, as a 3-year-old, but a 3.5-year-old, but she, had a good time with it, laughing about it, and just, it was entertaining, and it's nice seeing things be accessible to like all generations, and then they still be funny to us adults.
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely that all ages approach that Pixar has with the Disney fans of, hey, you get the kids to go and get the jokes out of the characters, but then the actual adults, they get something out of it. They get something out of it. Here's another one of redeemed Darth Vader. I mean, this is straight out of the comics here. I mean, the costume design and everything. The White Vader. I also seen the giant version of this. I have a picture of me on Facebook, I think somewhere, of me with this white Darth Vader Lego mini that's like bigger than me. It's it's pretty cool just seeing. It's like they pull. Okay, so they call it the cornerstone in the trailer. They pull out this Lego brick, and then that just kind of turns the universe up on its head. And it's just, the story seems like it's about trying to put this thing all back together the right way. At one point in the trailer, there's a Darth freaking Jar Jar Binks. That is also another fever. And I know we've talked about this with the first trailer, but it still seems so far-fetched to me. And I didn't even realize this after the fact until somebody grabbed a screenshot on Twitter. And there's a Darth Nubs from the Young Jedi Adventures, a little poopy and blue little furball guy. He's got like red eyes and a red lightsaber, for crying out loud. Like, this is a newer character in Star Wars. And he's like already an evil version of himself. And then there's an evil version of Kelly Marie Tran's character from The Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker. Rose, yeah, like she's a dark Jedi. Like, this is gonna be so much fun.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited for it, and I was reading more into it. I'm still not sure, based on the wording, if it's a 4-part release or if it's spread out. I'm still not sure about that, but I'm excited either way, however they release it. Yes,
actually, that's a good point. Keep me on track here. So basically, they say it's going to arrive on Disney Plus on September 13th. Now, you are correct, it is a 4-part series, but if it's a 4-part series and they release it all at the same time, why not just make it a movie? Like, is there some data out there that would suggest that if something is split up into 4 parts, like, the kids will watch it more or something? Maybe, because it's like more bite-sized pieces. So, like, are people more likely to just watch like a 20-30 minute chunk than just keep putting on the same hour-and-a-half long episode? I don't know, but that was interesting to me.
I guess if you think about it this way, though, if you obviously, we're looking at this from like the streaming adult audiences, but like, if you're thinking about it obviously from like the kids side of things, I see it all the time with my sister with the girls. Like, they want to go to the next episode, they watch the next one, and they go to the next one. So like, I think it's probably along that lines, because like you see shows like my one little cousin or one little niece, she liked the show Bluey or whatever it's called, I guess. But like, she'd watch like back to back episodes like that, or just have it up in the background. So I'm guessing it has to do with something like that, maybe, where it's like, Disney probably doesn't want someone like watching an episode of that show with a kid and then being like, oh, there's not a new episode on until next week, so let me just click off Disney Plus as a platform altogether.
Oh, okay. So
that's the only guess I have.
Yeah, upon closer inspection, and Chris in the chat, by the way, you guys could all join our live chat and help call things out from time to time that I might get wrong. So there you go. There's some incentive for you guys jumping in to give us a hand from time to time. But we do have Leia Organa and Greedo. I was calling it Padme. So there you go. Leia Organa with Greedo and Han Solo clothing. Like, what the heck is actually happening there? Now I'm even more intrigued.
Oh, think about it. I bet you they're going to do a switch with Han
Han and Greedo in A New Hope, like where Greedo is the smuggler and Han's the bounty hunter.
And maybe Greedo actually kills Han Solo in that moment.
Yeah,
That
just
steals
see
his
his little
clothes.
Lego arms go flying or something.
Oh man! So here's the full voice cast. All right, we have Gaten Matarazzo, who is, by the way, that one kid from Stranger Things, with the curly hair. I forget the character's name, but anyway, moving on. We have Tony Revolori, we have Marseille Martin, we have Bobby Moynihan from Star Wars Resistance, we have Michael Cusack, we have Ahmed Best. He doesn't really require any explanation. Special guest appearance from Mark Hamill, who's also a consulting producer, by the way. So that's very interesting.
That explains the poking fun at the sequels.
Ah, wow. Okay, that's really interesting now. Okay, but they're also joined by Skywalker Saga Looms, Naomi Aki, who plays Jaina, Anthony Daniels, Kelly Marie Tran. Billy D. Williams is back again. I mean, I can't believe it. Like that, this guy is just... I don't even know how old he is anymore, but like, I keep like waiting to hear his retirement or something, and it just keeps on going and going. Kind of like John Williams. It's amazing. It's really amazing. The full cast list also includes D. Bradley Baker, of course, T.C. Carson. T.C. Carson, did he play Cody Mundy?
That sounds right. I mean, that sounds right.
Okay, Trevor Devall, not certain about him, or Jake Green. Jennifer Hale, no. Jennifer Hale is a very famous voice actor. I believe she's the one that did the Femme Shep, for all of you Mass Effect BioWare fans out there. Phil Lamar, he's a big one. Ross Marquand. We have Pieter Michael, Kevin Michael Richardson, Helen Sadler, Matt Sloan, who I'm pretty sure does the Darth Vader voice, Matthew Wood, of course. We even got Sam Witwer and Shelby Young. So they really had a big budget, apparently. A very, very large budget with this little Lego series, because to get all those talent, that's top A-list actors for voice actors right there.
Yep. Here's an interesting... Wow, this is actually really shocking to me. So while you were listing those cast members off, so guys, Billy D. Williams is doing a Lego Star Wars special at 87 years old. Like, that is wild.
That's crazy. Wow. So there you have it, man. Obviously we're both excited for this Lego special. Let us know in the comments. Let us know what you think. Are you excited for this show? Let's hear it down in the comment section below. So now this takes us to Friday night, if we're going in chronological order of release of different news. And this is the D23 special presentation. And first and foremost, I want to make sure I mention this, because San Diego Comic-Con, you guys should take notes based on D23. D23, I know it probably was logistically a nightmare perhaps, but they ended up having, you know, the normal convention at a convention center, but then they actually had everybody go to this hockey arena, which seats like 20,000 people, I think. Maybe a little less, because maybe a portion of that was unavailable for the screen and people to get a good view. So let's just round it off and say probably a good 10,000 seats were in that arena where people are watching. That means enough people, if they wanted to, could pretty easily probably get a ticket to go see this big stuff. So that's really cool. But yeah, this was not live stream, but they went over everything from Pixar to Avatar to Disney's own studios, to Marvel, and of course Lucasfilm. And they had three big things that they announced for Lucasfilm. The first thing is something we've been getting information on since last we had our podcast, and that is indeed Skeleton Crew. So Jude Law, I believe, was the representative at this segment of the panel, introducing, hey, this is basically Star Wars meets Goonies meets, these different 80s adventure movies like E.T. So we got a lot of footage. Actually, we got a whole trailer. So first off, what'd you think about this trailer, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, at first when I watched it, I was like, yeah, it looks good. And then I rewatched it a few more times, and I was like, yeah, I'm on board because, like, my initial reaction, I think I posted it on Twitter. I might have posted it in our chat. I really think the thing is with this show, with Skeleton Crew, it's going to be a very good palate cleanser for the Star Wars fandom because, you know, just like glancing around social media, YouTube reactions, things like that, Instagram, like, it really feels like people, you know, it really seems like people at least are, like, at minimum neutral to good on it just because it's, like, it's so different. Like, there's really nothing to, like, super complain about, obviously. And it's just such a different thing that we've never had with Star Wars. I mean, like, you know, with the show like Andor's drastically, you know, it's different in its tone, but it's still Star Wars imagery to a degree, like things like that. Like this, like, just looks like it's, like, shot differently. Like you said, it has kind of like an 80s-ish look to it, the way it looks and things. And I think it's going to be a good thing for fans after, you know, the last couple of years of, like, divisiveness, whether it be, like, Skeleton Crew or people being divided on Andor or anything in between. Like, I think this show is really going to be a nice, like, just overall palate cleanser for the fandom, just to get on board with kind of like a real, I don't want to say lighthearted because it makes it sound like I'm, like, undermining the show, like it's not serious or something, but, like, more of a light show than something like, you know, all stakes are on it, like whether it be Andor being serious or like Acolyte where it's like, oh my gosh, are they breaking canon with this, that, or the other thing? Like this, it just really feels like it's going to be like just a nice light show.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think you kind of hit around the same point I was going to say is there's no expectations. There's no preeminent ideas of, oh, this needs to be this. For this to be good, it has to do these A, B, and C. Right, there is, like, no one knows. It's a total wild card. It's up until now that it's been pretty mysterious. Like, there's been a pretty tight cap on this whole series from Lucasfilm up until the last couple months. So for me, that just immediately alleviates any kind of, like, anxiousness of, oh man, this needs to be amazing, right? And that's the thing with Star Wars right now, right? Is there's so much content out. Not everything is going to be aimed for you. So yeah, you could take or leave some of these things. Maybe you don't like Acolyte, maybe you don't like Andor, but there's the Ahsokas of the world, or the Mandalorians of the world, or maybe Skeleton Crews of the world. That'll be more your speed. But I feel like you said, after Acolyte, after, you know, Mandalorian Season 3, there's been ups and downs in the fandom. But I think this could be kind of a way to bring a lot of people back. And it goes towards a Spielbergian approach. I mean, a lot of us have nostalgia for those early 90s, late 80s movies like E.T. and like Goonies, and the idea of kids taking the center stage. I said this on the Star Wars Underworld podcast the other night. There has not been a Star Wars live action anything that has focused on a kid such as these kids since, I think, 1999 with The Phantom Menace and Anakin Skywalker.
Well, see, that's a great point. That's a really great point because, see, here's the thing you got to think about from that perspective. So you're saying, like, you know, we haven't focused on kids since '99, basically, because if you think about it, you know, the prequels, obviously, Anakin growing up, whatever. But then when you go and fast forward to the Disney purchase and everything, and, like, okay, Disney, when they went to the sequels, you had to aim toward, for one, you had to get nostalgia back on board. So you had to get all the older generation back on board, the people who like Han, Luke, and Leia. Then you had to somehow pull in, do enough, like, cool stuff to get in the people that were in the prequel era to like it. And then even with these shows and movies and stuff nowadays, it's like, like obviously Mando is in this time period, and this show is in the Mandalorian time period. But, like, Mandalorian, you have its connections to, like, the Empire and the Rebels. Andor is literally the rebellion versus Empire. And then even, like, Kenobi, it's like adults, like, all these things that I just listed, or like Acolyte, like, all these things are all, like, you know, late teens, 20s plus and up to older adults, target audience. And, like, you know, it's always like Disney kind of trying to, like, please those demographics. And now, you know, we're getting this kid focus where it's like, okay, this is like a total, you know, leave your expectations at the door because we don't know what to expect from this, which is nice. It's like a really nice change with it being kids.
Oh yeah. So getting into the trailer itself, I've been showing off a couple screenshots from StarWars.com, which I believe are also from the trailer, but you get a good look at like all these shots. 90% of them have the kids in there, right? You got Jude Law, who is the grizzled, maybe Jedi. We'll get into that a little bit, but it is the focus on the kids, and that is awesome. But speaking of kids, and it's not the first time we've seen a school in Star Wars. But we've never seen a Star Wars school bus. So that was something so cool. And I will go back to 2023. I was sitting in the Lucasfilm presentation at the Excel Center in London for Star Wars Celebration Europe. And I will say a lot of this trailer did look familiar, but it was a new trailer. It wasn't the same shot-for-shot trailers. Stuff in here that I didn't see in the other one and vice versa. But I don't know about you, but it was really cool seeing, like, just the rural kind of suburban lifestyle of Star Wars people. We kind of gotten that from Andor, and that's something I really loved about Andor. It's like some people would consider it boring, maybe like, why do we have to like watch these people talking in like a domestic sense? But I think, you know, we have so much Star Wars, why not? And it grounds it in reality a little bit more. But I loved just to see the roads and the way that everything was like a really unique design.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, it's really neat, really unique design. And the thing that's good about this show as well, it like has familiar imagery in terms of, like you said, kind of like a school bus, your rural neighborhood. So it's like, you know, you can kind of like connect to the audiences whether they're younger or older. And on top of it, you have like the monologue from that teacher saying like, oh, hey, this is like the final tests for like that'll change your lives, yada, 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 yada. Like all that stuff, like that stuff, like all the audience members can relate to, because you hear that from like teachers on every level, whether it be kindergarten up to college and so on. So like, you know, those are like little hooks that can hook in audience members, because like that part, you know, made my ears perk up, because it's like, oh, what type of, you know, what test are they doing? Like what's going to trigger this and go into this and this? So, like, I really do like some of the imagery as well as already the early dialogue in this trailer in terms of, you know, relating to the wider audience.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, as far as, yeah, the dialogue was really good. I liked, this almost felt more like a movie trailer to me than anything else that we've gotten in a while. It doesn't look like a lot of this stuff was shot on the volume, or they've gotten really good at the volume at this point where it's like you can't even distinguish it anymore. And I know they've had like a live demonstration going on at D23 all weekend long. So that was one thing I want to shout out, is they had really cool like on the ground demonstrations at D23 of the various ways that they integrate like the different characters into the volume. So that was really neat. I'm sure people really loved that experience. But getting back to the trailer, yeah, like even the little details such as the school uniforms and having like the Arabesh with like the little patch on their shoulder, like the little thing here or whatever, like that was really cool. Really good attention to detail that shows you like, oh, this is something new for Star Wars. But I could see that being part of the design language. So kudos to the design team on, you know, making it Star Wars enough, but not. And another thing that's really cool that really harkens back to the ET is it seems like there's a strong emphasis to the speeder bikes and getting to see like these little speeder bikes that are customized with these like streamer things. Like it was really cool to actually see that attention to detail as well, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Also talking about these details and things, while you were talking, I quickly Googled it, and this is via Deadline. Skeleton Crew was shot in California, which means it's probably partially on location as well as in the volume. So I'm sure it's kind of a hybrid, I bet. But yeah, so like, yeah, I don't know, like you said, the details are really nice with this show, whether it be like the uniforms, the you know, just all this stuff. It's like, it really is like a resetting in terms of like it really cuts to that ground level of Star Wars again, like in terms of kid young person going on adventure like Luke in A New Hope. Young person going on adventure and seeing what happens. Like, I really, like, I was very skeptical, honestly. I was very, very skeptical about this show before we seen an official, real, like, not cell phone video trailer. And I really am actually on board with it because, like, they really sold me on it. The more that I've thought about it after the fact of, oh, hey, you know, it's also always about, like, changing your mindset of, like, Star Wars fandom, where it's like, okay, not everything has to be galaxy hanging in the balance to be good.
Oh yeah, it definitely. I like that. Oh, we discovered we discovered a Jedi temple. Like all this, like little cool things that, like, yeah, this could be any other sci-fi franchise, but now you get to see it's well seated with the Star Wars lore and the mythos, and then you get to see some obviously familiar character like Ithorians walking around and droids, obviously, and it's got that feel of like they're down in the coves or something, because you see like skulls, and it really does give you the Goonies vibes, I'll tell you. And they're like finding like ships that are underground, and oh man, this looks great. And by the way, we are getting 2 episodes the first night. I did find that out, I believe. Ben, I think the date is December 3rd.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Just going off the top of my head on that, everybody, but apparently I got a sound mind for that at least. But yeah, you got that going on, right? So you have 2 episodes up front, but you also have X-Wings flying around. That was a really cool shot towards the end, where you see the X-Wings. You see like they're navigating in their starship through almost like a starship graveyard, but then you can see like a hangar bay. Like it totally looks like it's an outlaw den that they're going to be arriving in, and there's these different kind of aliens. There's like a what is it, a bat type alien or something? There was a different kind of new alien hanging from the ceiling, and it's like, it's great to see Lucasfilm's always iterating, always trying to push the envelope with like creature designs and things of that nature, because it definitely looks like there's a lot of danger around.
Oh yeah, seeing the different creatures and things are they're really nice. So it's always really nice to see different creatures in Star Wars, and especially with a show like this, I feel like, if I had to guess, we're probably gonna get some like jump scare typey moments with some weird creatures and the kids. I would assume, just because, like, you're having kids going off into the galaxy, like they're gonna run into some creepy creatures and stuff. And like, I think one of the big, most like not talked about things about this series is like, people like me and other folks have had like skepticisms on the series, but the thing is, we got to remember, like, John Watts is like leading the series, and he's a great director. So I really like I said, the more I thought about it, I really have faith in it, just because, like, things are starting to add up. Like, the creatures look good, the trailers look good, the story seems interesting, and then you have a great director behind the scenes. So I really think it's trending in a good direction. And a big thing that's going to help out this show is that December 3rd release of it being a holiday type thing. People are going to be on break, and just think, you have the first 2 episodes release. By the time we get to Christmas, that'll be 3 weeks later, so that'll put us like 5 episodes into the series, which I'm sure they lined up something interesting for that 5th or 6th episode.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say there's no idea about the episode count. I'm just gonna go ahead and admit that it's probably gonna be, or take a stab at it, it's probably gonna be 8 episodes, like everything else is on Disney Plus these days. So I'll be surprised if it isn't, especially if it's a tentpole type of series like this is. But and the last shot in there, you have Jude Law using the Force to grab a set of keys, and one kid is saying Jedi or something like that. Now that could be a red herring. I mean, just because you could use the Force like that doesn't mean you're a Jedi necessarily. But are we about to get another Order 66 survivor, Ben?
If I have to like super theorize for 20 seconds on his character, I think no. I'm gonna go no Order. He's not an Order 66 survivor. It's gonna be a dude who maybe reluctantly has the Force and has just kept it secret because of all the Imperial stuff. And if we're gonna go like big picture, long term, he's gonna be one of Luke's first Jedi Knights in the Academy.
Oh my gosh!
I'll just throw that out there. Like that, maybe Luke recruits him via, because remember, this is Mandoverse, people.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
Like, so I think that's where I'm going with it. Is I think big picture prediction. I think Jude Law turns out to be one of Luke's first Jedi Knights in the Academy.
Oh my goodness! It could be like a Kyle Katarn kind of thing, where he gets like this much older guy that becomes a student at a young age, or something like that. Oh, that would be fascinating. I mean, talk about having links to the greater Mandoverse. That certainly would be one.
Just think. We have the whole Jedi Temple reference already. Like, what if Jude Law tells Luke, "Yo, I know where another Jedi Temple is." Blah 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 blah. Like, maybe that's where I'm thinking with his character, because they gotta, like, there's got to be some connection to the Mandoverse stuff. There has to be. So, like, I think maybe that could be a big picture connection for Dave, and then the smaller picture could be just like, I don't know, the kids running into people we know or something.
Well, we already know, what is his name, Vane?
Yeah, the pirate.
I'll bring this image back up because we have, let me see, this is actually on the floor at D23. They actually had a bunch of characters you could walk up to, and one of them is Vane. And the other one is this really cool looking peg-legged off looking droid, and then a Gran, and then you have a Shistavaran. And if you're not familiar with that, that's basically Wolfman from the Cantina or other sources in Star Wars. A very, scary looking dude. And these are pirates that the kids will, I'm assuming, run into at some point or another in the series. And it does look like the droid is actually helping, because I think the droid is voiced by Nick Frost, and in the trailer you could actually hear him, and he's like telling the kids something, like some kind of information. So I feel like there's always a droid in Star Wars. Like, you always have to have a droid in the story. It's just how it is. It's the formula of Star Wars. So there's our droid that's probably going to be eventually a companion of the kids. So.
Oh yeah, I really am fascinated by like the imagery and where they got inspiration from. Because the thing is, like with this show, and I can't take any credit for this whatsoever. Like Star Wars Meg, she's another YouTuber. She made a video maybe 2 weeks ago talking about the similarities between this show and Peter Pan. Like, there's a lot of imagery that's similar. Like, even so, that I'm pretty sure that droid's name is like SM-33, and it's so weird because Shmi is like a character from Peter Pan and stuff, and like you have these kids like going on an adventure, and there's pirates and this and that. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just really interesting seeing the imagery and like how this show compares to that movie. And it wouldn't surprise me if they got some inspiration from that movie.
Oh yeah, I've seen that as well. Very cool connection. Standout character for me is the the blue elephant in the room is named Neil. And the jury is still out. Is he an Ortolan, or is he just a very similar looking alien to Max Rebo's species? Not super important, but he is very much very strong Disney looking character. I'll put it that way.
I seen a post, I don't know if it was from Disney, it might have just been from like Deadline or Hollywood Reporter or someone, but someone alluded to him being like a Max Rebo type character. So I'm not sure if that's confirmation it's the same species or not, but I know it was alluded to by one of the big outlets.
Yeah, I just got to give a shout out and kudos to Lucasfilm for continuing to put in major characters in prosthetics. You go to Jackie Lam, you go to this guy now. Everything I loved about Andor, if I were to mark Andor, it was because there wasn't enough aliens. There was not enough aliens in Andor. Everybody's human, and barely any droids anyway, either. So this show at least looks like it's having a good balance between But yeah, I mean, that was the thing about the Acolyte, is the Acolyte really impressed me with the amount of makeup and everything else they were doing with the alien design. So it's good to see that this next show is also picking up the mantle of that and running with it, or the torch, whatever analogy you want to put in there.
Oh yeah. It's always nice to see them continue to do that, and yeah, I mean, I hope it just continues, really, because we always love all the cool CGI and whatever, but it's always great having actual like makeup, actual costumes and prosthetics and all of that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah. So I think that's where we'll leave it. Like I said, we're going to have many more discussions on Skeleton Crew, so you can rest assured of that. The Outer Rim Transmission crew will be diving in more with that. Now, next on the docket was the Andor segment. We had Diego Luna coming out to a packed crowd at the Honda Center there in Anaheim, and wow, us at home didn't really see much. Apparently, the crowd there got to see an exclusive trailer. Now, I may or may not have seen some of it somehow, in some way or form. So we're not going to break that down by any means. But what I will say is, what's beneficial is that indeed, Director Krennic is back and K-2SO is back. Alan Tudyk and Ben Mendelsohn are back at it again from Rogue One in this prequel series. I mean, if you're talking about how does the series get any better, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Get those two fan-loved characters in there, and I do think I do believe I've seen or somebody said that Saul Guerrera is also back as well. So this is just great news.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think for obviously for like all the fans, it's great news because you're getting those types of characters back, and I really do think stuff like that will, obviously it naturally fits the story, but I think also some of those characters, it kind of fits potential like feedback they got from Andor the first season in terms of like, from people that have critiqued the show, where it was like people like me, where it's like, man, it feels way too separate from Star Wars. Like we need a little bit of more, connection, whether it be the action or the characters and stuff. And the way you do that is you just drop in characters that make sense, like Krennic, like K-2SO, like those type of people. And that kind of like checks that box. Even though I'm not ever a person that's just like, oh yeah, just make it Cameo City, but put in cameos that make sense, and like those type of cameos, they make sense, because I'm sure, if I just had to guess, I bet you the Krennic stuff is probably going to be like toward the end of the season, leading right into Rogue One, maybe. But like I'm just very excited that they're doing that, because it opens the possibility also for more, Rebel connections on like the Rebel side, even like other big Rebel characters. So it's just, I think there's a lot of really good potential when it comes to Andor season 2. Like, the more I've heard about it, I'm actually excited for it. So
yeah, this is going to be the Star Wars of 2025. And we got the reconfirmation it will be out in 2025. Now, I was a little bit perturbed that they couldn't give us at least a window. Why couldn't they just say like winter 2025, spring 2025? Any little hints? Because I feel like they've been sitting on this for a while, and they just wanted to with this Hollywood strike, like they were out of work for a while, so it seems like they're trying to space out. We're feeling the effects now. I feel like they're really trying to space strategically out the Disney Plus content, so there's like always a reason for people to be subbed to the service. So I really hope this is out in the first half of 2025 and not the second half. And I mean, at this point, this is the only surefire thing we know it's coming in 2025. So if that's the point, then I wouldn't really be surprised if we don't get this till late summer or something like that, because that'll, give them more time to put stuff out or whatever. But as far as like what's on StarWars.com, Tony Gilroy promises an even larger scale and galaxy-encompassing vision for the second season, with peril at every corner. The next episodes in the series will drive toward the birth of the Rebel Alliance and the beginning of Rogue One. The stakes are greater, the enemies more organized, and the clock is ticking, Luna warned. So there you have it. A nice tease for Andor. Really wish we could have just gotten this behind the scenes type of thing on the official YouTube channel. I get it though. People paid a lot of money to go out to this convention. They want to have some kind of exclusive things that they could talk about with their friends back at home. So there you go. That's Andor coming next year. Now the final thing that was at this presentation was, and can you believe it? We're going to be talking about a Star Wars movie that has been acknowledged to have already started filming. So there's no way they can X this one, guys. I think we're pretty safe. They started filming the movie at least. So we're already like 10 steps further than most of the movies that got canceled at this point. So there you go. We had Jon Favreau. We had Dave Filoni enter the stage. And, well, the crowd also got a nice little exclusive look at the Mandalorian and Grogu, which they did reaffirm as well is going to be out in 2026. So, yeah, we got that acknowledged. I think it's, they have a specific date. Oh, they do. May 22nd. May 22nd, 2026. So, right around the official Star Wars day, not the unofficial, but the official day that Star Wars came out, like a couple days removed from that. So, yeah, they showed off footage that people were describing as the Battle of Hoth, like, or looked like Hoth because there's AT-ATs and there's ATRTs and there's those little dudes with Grogu again, the Babu Fricks, the Anzellans. There you go.
Yeah, I mean it did. It kind of looked like the Battle of Hoth scenery and stuff, and yeah. I don't know, man. It's really interesting. It's great. Like you said, the good thing is since they started filming, I mean, they can't backtrack off this now. Like you already got the cart rolling. You can't stop it. So like it's happening. It's happening. Interesting little thing to keep an eye out for. We might get a Bill Burr appearance in the movie because he just said 2 weeks ago on his podcast. I meant to message it in our chat. He started filming something secret he can't talk about. So I'm guessing it's probably this movie. But yeah, and based on what we heard though from D23 this weekend, like I'm very excited for this movie. Like I think for starters, I think it's a great way to kick off Star Wars coming back to theaters because the Mandalorian and Grogu, you have so many good universal things with the Star Wars fandom, with Grogu, with Mando, and like I've said so many times before, like all of us will be in theaters. It doesn't matter what the movie's about. It could be called Ewok Adventures Part 2 and we would be there. So like, I think this is a really good, smart, calculated way to do things by Disney and Star Wars and Lucasfilm just to go and, lean into the Mandoverse stuff to get people back in the theaters. Because like this type of movie, when we see the trailer for it, like officially, and when the marketing kicks off, like people like your mom will go and be like, oh, hey, Chris, did you see this Star Wars movie's coming out, blah, 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 with Baby Yoda, So I think it's a good, smart move by Lucasfilm. And then also, one more little thing, a very, very smart move by Lucasfilm, and it's a small detail. We talked about it a bit in our group chat. I think just from pure optics, they're finally getting their feet under them for good optics with Star Wars in terms of, say what you want about Kathleen Kennedy, but like when she would always go and talk on stage, it would always be like, I don't know, just sometimes her messaging isn't the best. The way she's definitely not a good public speaker. I'll just say that. So like, that would always like leave fans, just going on and on about Kathleen Kennedy. So instead of just putting her out there to announce these movies and shows, you bring out people like Jude Law, you bring out Diego Luna, you bring out the fan favorites, John and Dave, and like doing this sort of like, even though it's just so basic, just switching out who's describing the movie, that means so much to the hardcore Star Wars fans. Like literally when I was talking with my cousin today about this, he was like, oh, did you hear? He said it was so cool. John and Dave were announcing this movie, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, oh, this is kind of like Kevin Feige with Marvel talking about Marvel projects. And like, I love that like optically from Star Wars because it's just bleeding over to people like saying, wow, John and Dave are talking about it.
Yeah, and that was a great transition point for something I observed, something others observed, is there was a lack of Kathleen Kennedy anywhere to be found at D23. Now, I find that very interesting. I put this on X saying, to my knowledge, this is the first time since the buyout of Disney, whenever there's a Lucasfilm presentation, Kathleen Kennedy is there in some shape or form, just introducing things in the beginning or coming in at some point and then interjecting with some more information. And this is D23, for crying out loud. There's a giant audience of 10,000 people. Bob Iger was there, James Cameron was there, the big shots were there, right? And now, I'm not trying to get a conspiracy theory level here, but I mean, maybe it is what you're saying. Maybe they did get a feel for people saying that they don't want to see her talk because it might throw things off or something. But
yeah, I think it is. I really think it's just smart, like really smart business decisions by them to do that, because like no matter what, like, you know, people always say like, you know, good news, you know, being in the news regardless is better than not being in the news. Like, they could have always taken it that way, but maybe now it's like, hey, let's kind of cultivate more positivity with the Star Wars fans, because even from the most hardcore Star Wars critiquers, so many of them had said, oh wow, that was great seeing Dave out there talking versus having Kathleen talk about it. And it's so simple. Even though Dave and Kathleen both would have been talking about the exact same thing, it's just totally different when you have him talking versus her, just because of like how fans feel, just the messaging, just the way they deliver things. And for me, I just think it's just a better, personally, I really, like, it's not even me like being critical of Kathleen Kennedy. I just think in general with projects and shows, I think it's better across the board for whatever studio it is to let the people involved, you know, talk about it. Like, we've seen it with Kevin Feige over the years with Marvel, because he's like actually heavily involved with the MCU. But like, you know, Kathleen, like, sure, she's like technically a producer on all these things, but like she's definitely more, you know, your corporate head than anything, versus like, you know, look at DC with James Gunn. I mean, James Gunn's out tweeting updates about Superman and posting pictures from the set. So like, you know, when you get people like John and Dave out there, or John Watts, or Jude Law, or Diego Luna, it hits better. Or even Tony Gilroy. Like, Tony Gilroy, that's one thing. I may critique Andor a lot, but I love his transparency of where he's like, yeah, I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy, but I'm just like on writing a Star Wars show, blah, 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 blah. Like, I respect that. I'd rather have him be transparent than be like, oh yeah, I'm a lifelong Star Wars, you know what I mean? Like, and just do a fake shtick. Like, I respect transparency, and like, that's why I just like when people like John and Dave are talking and other folks are talking. Like, I think that's just a better creative way to do things. I mean, look at even with Bad Batch, like, every week, Brad Rao and Jennifer Corbett, is it Jennifer Corbett who's involved with that show? Yeah, Jennifer Corbett. They're doing little interviews with StarWars.com every week after the show. Or even like when the Azaz Ventress stuff came up. Oh, hey guys, don't worry, we got more stuff coming down the line with her, blah, blah, blah. Like, transparency, I like that. Versus like in the past before, you know, we've had Kathleen where it's just like a lot of wishy-washy communication more than anything. Like, it's not even like she's trying to hide stuff, it's just the way things are delivered is the big thing. So I really hope this is a trend that continues. And the big test will be, I mean, you'll be at Celebration next year, Chris. The big test is like, obviously Kathleen's going to be there, but I'm interested to see how much she's involved with those panels.
The other thing that they revealed, so that was basically everything at the presentation. We had those three big heavy hitting stories. And then there was more stuff that kind of trickled out throughout the course of the next couple of days at D23. And the one thing that was really cool for me, and I experienced this last night on a whim. You know, we seen months ago, Ben, that we don't know what the heck this was about, but apparently Epic Games has like a bit, or Disney or Epic Games has a stake in development of this big, they're partnering up for this big, like, multi-billion-dollar program where they're going to have like this Disney thing embedded in Epic Games, whatever. Maybe like a big version of Star Wars Galaxies, but with every Disney character or something like that. So anyway, cutting to the chase, they had on Fortnite last night, you could have logged into Fortnite in a special special server, and you could actually watch like D23 live from inside Fortnite. Like they had a D23 studio that actually looked like the studio, the showcase room where everybody was watching the Star Wars news. It looked just like that, but you're playing as your Fortnite characters. So here I am, you know, my avatar is the Death Trooper, and I'm running around like just clapping and stuff. And Dave Filoni appears on the stage, like on the screen, and I'm like running around platforming as my Death Trooper, like listening to Dave Filoni talk about Star Wars and its connection to video games, and then he basically announces there's a Grogu like skin, like a back bling they call it, where you can have like Grogu like on your back nibbling at his blue cookies and throwing up and stuff as you're jumping around. Like that's coming to Fortnite tomorrow. Apparently IG-11 is a new skin. Super Commando Moff Gideon from season 3 is a skin. So you're gonna get a lot of fun stuff like that. But the biggest thing here, and this actually spurs a little bit of a mini discussion we can have, is about Galaxy's Edge. And for the first time since the launch of Galaxy's Edge, they're going to get away from the sequel trilogy, and the Smuggler's Run Ride, which is like the Millennium Falcon simulator, is actually going to be, I don't know how if they're going to permanently change it, or if it's going to be like a Star Tours thing where it's like there's a chance you can get one version or the other, but they're going to have a new experience in the Millennium Falcon cockpit that's going to be from the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, or at least connected to the movie in 2026, where it's going to be like TIE fighters and Grogu's. The image here is Grogu, and I'm going to try to pull up the image as I'm talking about it. But they have an image of like Grogu flying through space with Mando. Yeah, I got the image here. I'll pull it up in a second. So that's really interesting. So what are your thoughts on that, Ben?
I mean, I think it's a really smart move. Again, like, you know, I mean, I've talked about several smart moves so far that they've been making in this podcast, and this is another one. Like, I really, you know, it's not even me. Again, like, we never want to sound negative on here, or like we don't want to sound negative when it's not necessary. But it's not even me like bashing on the sequels or anything. I really think just purely from a smart, like money making perspective, from like Parks and Rec, like I just think it's smarter to lean into what's been your flagship property. Like just objectively, Mando and Grogu have been so much bigger culturally than the sequels have for Disney, in my opinion. Like in terms of like social media buzz, like Grogu's like, in my opinion, the second iconic thing in Star Wars history behind Darth Vader. Like I think Grogu's right there. So like, I just think them leaning more into that whole aspect, leaning into Mando and Grogu in that era, it's a good sign, like that they're finally becoming more aware of like what people like or what people are interested in. And on top of it, I don't think any of these things are like these smart moves. I don't think it's a coincidence that Bob Iger's just returned as well. Like I really think that can't be understated enough. Like because Disney was going in a really good direction in my opinion until he left, and you know different leadership came in for the past few years. But like ever since he's been back, it really feels like they're righting the ship in terms of like, you know, this park decision, excellent. In terms of even like the storytelling for the movies and shows, like, you know, he's like, hey, we're dialing back the TV shows to put people back in theaters. And he even talked about, you know, the main company line that's coming from like him is like, you know, we're putting entertainment first now. So like you have all of these things. And I think it's just bleeding over into Star Wars now, where it's like Bob Iger's leadership is like really pushing that, and now you know it's bleeding over into this thing, like Mando and Grogu. He probably looked at it just objectively and said, "All right, sequels are doing this, whatever. Like you know, people's interest are this. Mando and Grogu's way up here, and it's our upcoming movie in 2 years that we're going to build to. Yeah, let's go to that." And like I really think that's a big part of this.
Oh yeah, put it this way, if you go back in hindsight, Disney, instead of basing it on Batuu, I could have seen them making it Navarro instead. Like if they were gonna choose now, they'd be like, okay, let's tear down Batuu and put up Navarro. We're gonna have statues of IG-11. We're gonna have the lava pits. We're gonna have all that, and that's the thing, right? Is they put all their money on this horse that like started off strong and ended up screeching to a halt toward the finish line with the Rise of Skywalker. And everybody's attention suddenly went to Mandalorian, and it's like, well, that's incredibly popular, more so than Rise of Skywalker could ever be in the sequel trilogy. So now they have to sort of pivot. And we've seen things recently in the Disneyland parks. For instance, they have Fennec Shand walking around. They have Mando and Grogu walking around. They have the older Boba Fett walking around. So they're already starting to like experiment with like, let's break the rules that we had with only sequel stuff and start like slowly integrating other facets and stalwarts of the Star Wars galaxy that are popular among fans right now. And the good news is like, okay, Rise of Resistance, that's always going to be sequel trilogy. They can't change that because there's literally like state-of-the-art robotics there, but at least with the Smuggler's Run, in a way they were smart of making something like that, because it's basically Star Tours on steroids, you know what I mean? It's like they could just change the screens and change the story and change like how the ride moves, and there you go, there's a new experience. So it's good at least that they can revamp that and they could fit it for that. But this begs the larger question: do we think over the next, like, let's say 5 years, will there be kind of like a slow revamping? Maybe instead of First Order troopers, for instance, walking around, we're going to see like dirty and grimy, like traditional, like remnant looking stormtroopers. Yep. You know, maybe we'll see, instead of Kylo Ren walking out there at the stage, maybe we'll see Moff Gideon walking out there on stage. Instead of seeing Rey walking around, maybe we'll see Gina Carano's character. No, we're not going to see
Thrawn even.
Oh yeah, there you go. You got Thrawn that could be walking around, because I don't know if it was in Mando, but like the good news is that Batuu is not strictly sequel trilogy era, and Lucasfilm, ever since the onset of this park, has been doing a great job with making sure that Batuu has been there for literally hundreds of years at least, because it's even mentioned as a location they go to 350 years before the Phantom Menace in Phase 2 of the High Republic. So that thing goes all the way back there to all the way to the sequel trilogy. Solo a Star Wars story, name drops, Black Spire out. So it doesn't have to be sequel trilogy. If they wanted to, they could just tear out certain segments that have like the First Order drop carrier, which was never shown in any of the movies. So technically they could like retroactively be like, oh, that was just a ship from the early Republic days, you know, or something like that.
Oh yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think over the next, say, 5 to 10 years, I think they're going to slowly, especially with the presumed, like I said, I think the Mando movie, it should be successful. And then even, obviously Ahsoka Season 2, and then Dave's movie, and then if they continue on with the Mandoverse stuff, even after that, I think you hit the nail on the head with your point, because, like, I think they're going to slowly transition that park to Mandoverse era. I really think, because, like, well, think about it this way, even from the perspective of like the generations growing up. Look, my young nieces, they're 3 and a year and a half old, and they love Grogu. Anytime they see Grogu, they're just grabbing him and carrying him around everywhere. So what's better than having these kids that are growing up? Right now the generations, the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, they're maybe younger right now, but 5 years from now, when they're 8 to 12, 8 to 15, whatever, transition it over to more Mandoverse stuff. Like, I really think that's probably where they're going to go. I mean, it just, to me, again, it's not even me being critical of the sequels and stuff. It's just straight up, like, just makes more sense, I think, money-wise, to get people to go. Because, like, if you have a younger kid who's like, oh, I don't know if I like that Rise of Skywalker, do I want to go to a theme park with that stuff in it? Probably not. Or, like you said, Chris, what if it's more like Navarro-esque or whatever? If you tell your 10-year-old niece, hey, do you want to go to like Disneyland to go to like where Mando was and Grogu was, they probably would be more excited about that, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I think it's going to be unanimous for her. I think it's unanimous. I think everybody's like, I've not met a single person that says, I hate The Mandalorian. At best, there might be people lukewarm about it, but it's not going to be overly offensive to people the way that some people react to Last Jedi or Rise of Skywalker, right? So if it's a surefire bet, then yeah, that's what Lucasfilm is going to be doing. But yeah, I think we did a pretty good economical job on recounting efficiently everything that I covered, everything that I managed to find about D23. Now, there you go. I mean, like I said, I think this was a pretty successful year for D23, and I think going forward, this is what we can expect, because if it's a bilateral, if it's a biannual thing, if Celebration continues to be biannual, okay, so that's like the 1 year it's D23, you get your news there, and then the next year you get your news, for your big Star Wars news from Celebration. Now, I don't think they're gonna wait 2 years for the next Celebration, and if that's the case, then the next D23 might not have that much stuff going on with Star Wars if Celebration is literally 2 or 3 months before that. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty good. It was pretty good. You know, I think there's a lot of news that'll keep us fans happy until we see the next thing. And you know, I've had my issues with the promotion of Lucasfilm as of late. I've spoken my concerns where it's like, I won't be surprised if like 2 weeks from now, on a Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, we get the acknowledgement of a StarWars.com article revealing the next Star Wars animated series. Like, they do this crap all the time. In fact, they did it with San Diego Comic-Con. San Diego Comic-Con, the day or two before the panel for Lucasfilm, they revealed like the next like Star Wars comic event, when they could have just said in front of the crowd of like a bunch of 4,000 fans. You know what I mean? Like, they do weird things. And then on the plane ride home from San Diego 2 days after the convention, they started talking about the next big book trilogy. So it's like, wait a minute, you guys had the biggest platform possible to reveal this stuff, and you put it out on websites. Same thing with Skeleton Crew. They gave, I don't know what they do with these deals when it comes to like the exclusive reveals of things, because Lucasfilm has been doing a lot of that, whether it be IO9 with the reveal of the
People
comics,
magazine,
or
like,
People magazine with Skeleton Crew. It's like things are getting a little bit interesting over there. I'll use that as the word, because it's not important, but it's just something I've observed. So, you know, if you're waiting for news of the Acolyte renewal, if you're waiting for news of the next animated series, then you might be disappointed this weekend, but you also might just randomly get the news on a random day during the week, like 3 weeks from now.
yeah.
Not saying
mean,
I know anything. I'm not an insider by any means. I'm just saying this is usually how it goes for Lucasfilm.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, after this weekend, we're in the dark, and I mean, the only other Star Wars news we have is Outlaws coming out at the end of this month. Other than that, so say skip past Outlaws, like, we're pretty much in the dark. Even if you check off the Rebuild the Galaxy special, like, from that to December, we're in like a 3-month dead zone, basically, where it's like maybe in October, like you said, maybe in October or something, we get like a random show announcement or something like coming in 1 year, blah 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 blah, or something, like maybe something like that. Because, like, I don't know, I just feel like we got to get something. We got to get some sort of animated project getting announced, or at least briefly announced on like StarWars.com at some point. Like, who knows? Maybe it's just like another Tales series, even. Yeah,
they can't go too long, because you know that they've been hiring up people. You know that they've been.
Yep.
I can't imagine that they would wait all the way till April, the end of April, at Celebration to announce the next animated thing. I feel like, if anything, we could get a trailer by then, you know, or something at that point, because these things have such a long leadway. Look at Clone Wars final season, right? Look at Clone Wars, look at Bad Batch. It was the year. It was literally the year after Clone Wars that we were getting season 1 of Bad Batch. They're pretty on top of with animation. Like one thing ends, the other thing is starting up like the following calendar year. So,
Yep.
I mean, the thing is, they do have Tales. Now there's been no acknowledgement of another Tales series yet, but I mean, if they keep going the way they go, we get one of them a year. So at the very least, we'll probably have a Tales thing to hold us over if they don't have the next animated thing ready for 2025.
Well, maybe, just thinking about it when you were going through, like kind of a timeline of that, just doing some like rough fan math. If you think about it, like Skeleton Crew, let's say 8 episodes, that probably ends early to middle of January. So then they have a few month break until Celebration, and maybe we get like a show in between then and Celebration. Because like I think the more I think about it now, I think Andor is probably coming end of summer next year because they'll want to promote it at Celebration. So, if you think about it, because they're not going to squeeze an Andor between Skeleton Crew and Celebration, like, I don't know. So I feel like maybe that could be kind of like our target zone. Like maybe
you're right. You're right. Real quick, Daredevil is out in March. They're not going to want to put a Star Wars show when Daredevil's coming out. So I agree with you. I think what's going to happen now, and a couple of loyal listeners and viewers are in the chat sounding off Aaron and Chris saying this. I agree, man. The last 2 celebrations, whether it be at Celebration 2023 or 2022, they showed off Obi-Wan. 2023, they showed off Mando Season 3 episode. They love getting the cast and the crew in front of a screaming rabid fan base to show what they've been working hard on to the audience. If I really think that Diego Luna is going to introduce the premiere episode of Andor at Celebration Japan. Why? If you waited this long, just wait another 2 months and you're going to get that experience, and the fans are going to eat it up, talk about it for years. You know what I mean? That stuff always pops off at Celebration. So, yeah, I think if it's not the first episode, we'll get an episode at some point during Celebration. So, yeah, I think that'll be what happens. But maybe the animated series, if it does come out, will probably be in like the winter time or like the fall, maybe. Then.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe fall after that, because like right now, the only thing officially on the Star Wars calendar next year is Andor.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of like shows, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we only have Andor. So they have to put some sort of animated thing out there. At least you would think. And like you said, they've been doing job listings and things like we know there's something in the works. So like it's just, what is it? Like is it a Omega continuation? I know Bradley Baker like mentioned several months ago, like, he talked about like other stories potentially for like Cody and some of the clones. So like, are we gonna get like a clone thing maybe? That's what like my head goes to. Maybe we get something along that line. But like, I don't know. There has to be something in the works. Like there has to be. Like it's Star Wars. We're getting animated shows like left and right. So it just, I don't know. Like you said, it feels like it's only a matter of time. It's gonna be like a random Monday or Wednesday or something.
Yep.
At 12:57 p.m. and be like, oh, here's a new show coming out, blah blah blah. Like,
I mean, part of you can't blame them either, because it goes back to like these conventions where, if you look back at D23, I don't think they've actually ever announced anything new. I think the best they've done is like introduce Obi-Wan as Obi-Wan, but we already knew the Obi-Wan show is happening officially. But it's like, well, duh, wouldn't Ewan McGregor always be attached to that if it was an Obi-Wan show or something like that?
Yeah, that's the only time I can think of. And honestly, you bringing that up, that's something I didn't mention earlier. But I really think, because D23 is kind of always lukewarm, in my opinion, compared to Celebration in terms of news and like things. Yeah. And I think this, I'd have to like really fact check myself, but I think this weekend's D23 with Skeleton Crew, the way the trailer was, with how good it looked, and like just overall palate cleansing vibe to it, as well as the Mando news, as well as even the Andor news for like critiquers like me. I really think overall this is probably the best D23 for Star Wars fans since
the Kenobi announcement, because the Kenobi announcement was just huge, even though we knew obviously it'd be Ewan, but like, just the clips of him coming out and saying, "Oh yes, I'll come back" or whatever, like that whole thing. I think this is the best D23 since we've had since that moment.
Yeah. So what I was getting at before was the idea that you have the Daredevil Born Again announcement. You have all this other news about the park expansions and all that. I think Lucasfilm always likes to have the spotlight on them a little bit when they announce something brand new. So if they release like, the next animated series, that might get kind of flooded by all the other news that came out this week. So I think that's the idea. That their thing is, okay, well, we'll talk about something we've already announced. But if it's something new, we're going to do it at either a celebration or a random Tuesday at 5:53 p.m. It's something like that. Like that, they're waiting for to have all eyes on that particular day when they don't have to compete against any other news.
Oh, for sure. I mean, if you think about it, like, let's go on a less hype of a show for a moment. If they announce, I mean, we all enjoyed Visions, for example. But if they announce Visions would have been crushed out by Skeleton Crew, Mando, and Andor news. Like, no one would have talked about it, really. People would have talked about it for 5 minutes and then moved on. I mean, heck, even on this podcast, like, we would have talked about it for like a 10-minute segment probably and then moved on to the live action stuff. Just because, like, those type of projects, I think the only thing that could have even competed with headlining news is if they would have announced like an animated Luke, Han, and Leia show 2 years after Return of the Jedi. Like, that's the only thing that could have gotten headlines with fans, maybe. But if you announce like Visions, it would have just got, Thanos snapped out of existence compared to the other stuff.
Yeah. So I think that is how we're going to end it this week on Outer Rim Transmission. I want to thank everybody for joining us live. I want to thank everybody for watching or listening after the fact. Again, you could listen to us live and watch us live on youtube.com/StarRaptor every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern. We are back on that time schedule for the foreseeable future. I know there was a couple weeks there before I went away that we were kind of all over the place, but I feel pretty secure in saying we will be the same time, 7 p.m. for the foreseeable future. So join us then if you're available. If not, you can always watch the VOD after it airs, and you can always listen to us. I usually upload the podcast for the episodes usually on a Monday or Tuesday, so you can wait till then to hear our discussions. But yeah, it was really good having everybody in chat. Chris, Aaron, everybody there, thanks for joining us. Ben, where can the people find you online if they'd like to see what you're up to?
Yeah, you can find me on X and Instagram at RealBenMaynard, and I'm pretty much just talking fitness and Star Wars and Madden lately, since that's coming out tomorrow, so I'll be playing that. And so always talking about those things, and you'll see me posting fitness updates. Like the other day, I had an all-time bench PR. I hit 285 pounds on the bench, so that was exciting.
Crap, that's awesome.
No, and the thing that stinks about it, too, I was mad immediately as soon as I unracked the weight because it felt light in my hands. I was like, oh, crap, I could have done 290. Like, it was a very easy 285. So I know I have more in the tank, which is awesome. So I'm approaching that 300. I'm approaching the 300 number, which is going to be so cool when I get there. So yeah, I'm just kind of documenting all that. So yeah, you can find me talking about those things on those platforms. And then if you want to find Milton, you can find him on X at MiltonWeber7, where he just like reposts like funny sports memes and things, or his Instagram, where he's like really active on there at Milton7Weber. And he's always sharing just like funny Instagram reels, whether it be like wrestling or fitness or Star Wars, basically. So yeah.
Oh man, yeah, there you go. We're hoping to have the full crew back for next week, and like I said, it's going to be a kind of quiet couple weeks here as we dive into the rest of a slower summer. But no, we aren't. How could I say this as a huge gaming fan? About 2 weeks' time, Star Wars Outlaws is out, so you better believe I'm going to spend at least a couple shows talking about my adventures through the galaxy far, far away in the first ever open-world Star Wars game. So that's the thing. We got a lot coming up. It might not seem like that, but we got Outlaws at the end of August. Then, the beginning of September, we have whether it be 1 week or 4 week of drops of the Lego Star Wars series. We got that to talk about. Then we'll get a little quieter until December. So, the future is still bright for Star Wars, and any other announcements and little news tidbits that come along the way, where to find us and where to find that information right here on Outer Rim Transmission. So for Ben, for Chris, for Milton, here we are at the Outer Rim Transmission. Thanks for watching. This was episode 163. May the Force be with you always. End transmission.